Hello, welcome to the journey of life, love, and lessons. This is a little bit different today, and I'm excited about this episode. And it is going to be me as a host, and my husband, Jim, is going to be changing his host seat to the guest seat. So I get to interview and talk with my wonderful husband, Jim, about all the things that he has went through in his own journey. So I am Carla Keibler, and I am part of the host of the Journey of Life, Love, and Lessons. And so I want to tell you a little bit about my husband. And guess what? I do know my husband. So I don't need that little paper that tells me about the person that I'm getting ready to interview. And so Jim is absolutely a wonderful man. He's absolutely a reflection of God's love to me every single day of my life, to me, to our children, to our grandkids. And I am just honored to be able to be his wife, to share life and all that it comes into hand in hand in the ups and downs, the struggles and celebrations. He is my foundation, my rock, and everything that he is a reflection to me and to my life. And so he has had, experiences in his life. And I wanted to, bring him on here as my guest and so he can tell his story of inspiration and hope, because I believe a lot of this world deals with the things that he struggled with, which is low self-esteem, lack of confidence and anxiety that he had in his life, and that God has brought him to where he's at today. And a lot of people deal with that. So I wanted to bring him on here and to help him to share his journey. So if I had a hand clap sound and applause of people cheering, I would do that right now, because he deserves, the acknowledgement, the great person that he is. So want to welcome to the show my husband, Jim Keibler.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure.
I'm glad to be here. It's a little different. We mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
A little different scenery.
Yes.
So, this is going to be wonderful.
Yes. So excited to be able to have this episode. So just want to jump right into it. And I want, for the people who don't know you, to be able to introduce yourself a little bit and share who you are, just the kind of person that you are.
Well, my name is Jim Keibler. This is my wonderful wife, Carla. And, we have several kids, five kids,
Yeah.
9 grandkids.
Yes.
And that's awesome to have that, the family we have together. And, we get to work together, and I get to help people that feel down about themselves, and encourage people and uplift them, support them. I mean, that's so exciting. And it's uplifting to me, and it's so rewarding to be able to do that with people.
Right.
And so, having this time here to be able to share things about what I've experienced in my life and what I've learned and overcome and worked through. This is a great opportunity. I'm thankful for this.
Right. Because a lot of times people see you on Facebook, the social media, they see you speaking and coaching with clients and stuff, and they see a side, that is where you're at now, but they don't know the journey that you've been at. And so that's what I want people to know more about you. And so every one of us have a starting part in our journey, right? It shapes us, it defines us, and it helps us to, it takes us in a direction. Sometimes it could be a positive direction, sometimes a negative direction. So, but direction, is something that you help people with, to help them to know who they are, their identity, and how where they're at does not mean where they have to stay at. And so for you, what has been your starting point? Because I know you where you're at now, and I know your journey, but what was that defining point at the beginning that sparked either, something that was not good, something that was not positive, and it kind of altered who you were in the starting point of your life? So what's been the beginning part of your journey?
Well, the very beginning, I guess, when I was younger, I was always worried about what somebody would say about me, what they thought about me. Concerned about that, didn't want to disappoint anyone. And I remember going through, when I was younger, my parents divorced when I was 12 years old. And that, to me, I was like, it's no big deal. It's not my life, it's theirs. I guess that might be an excuse for it at that time. And so then we moved with my grandparents. And my grandfather there was the male figure, and he was very belittling to anyone and everyone. Um, and so there's a lot of things he would say to me that was degrading. Um, and it just kind of, I wouldn't say anything because it's not my thing to say something about anyone.
Hmm.
And then over time, I think that kind of went into me, ingrained into me to some degree, even though there was more in me that wanted to come out, but was
Right.
afraid to come out.
Right. Right.
And so, I mean, I remember one incident when I was probably about 14 or 15 years old. I was helping my grandfather. Now, he helped me out do some things and help learn things. But he said, you're a piece of crap. I was helping him do something, doing yard work, and he said, you little piece of crap. And over time, he kept saying things and it just kept bottling up. And I was being respectful to my elders. So I
Hmm.
wouldn't say anything. But this time I had it like up to here. And I was
Right.
like, I'm not your little piece of crap. And I felt bad about that. So I said that to my mom. I said
It's
that to
my
him.
elder, my grandfather.
I said that to him like, oh my gosh, I go tell my mom about this. And I went and I said, Mom, this is what Grandpa said. This is my response. I still no respect my elders, but
Hmm.
I've had enough of it.
Right.
And he changed his attitude towards me, it seemed like, from then.
Right.
But there's like other times in my life where I was afraid to um take action on something. I may see something, like I played basketball when I was in elementary school, and I was afraid to, you know, go after things, be aggressive to some degree. Sometimes I was, but most of the time I was very apprehensive of it,
Hmm.
wondering what somebody would say, what they think I would act like, how I looked,
Right.
all those type of things. And so, like, and then my grandfather had that time, and then I was in high school, and I remember somewhere in my junior senior year, I was just in myself. I was outside the school, and I was like, "There's more in me that's coming out. I want the real me to come out, but how do I do that?
Right.
What is it?"
Hmm.
And so, I mean, looking back in my life, there's a lot of different things in my life and how I perceive myself, things that happened in my life
Right.
that contributed to those type of thoughts.
Hmm.
And I just, when I see people in those type of situations, it touches my heart.
Right.
And with today, I've come a long way. And so, what touches my heart, and both your heart too, is when you
Hmm.
see people that's been in those type of situations to some degree,
Right.
we're compassion for them.
Hmm.
I want to encourage them, help them, um, let them know that there is hope. Um, and so, I mean, there's a lot of things I've gone through my life that's built up and learned, and to get to this point in my life.
Right. And, by hearing your grandfather, someone that you looked up to, someone that I am supposed to respect my elders. This is someone who I am supposed to trust, to love, and you did, you loved him. But the whole point was like, why was he degrading me? Why was somebody that I am supposed to look up to say those words to me? And so, how did that make you feel? For someone, who has, low self-confidence, and lack of self-esteem, um, how does that person feel? So what did that put in you from then on? What kind of emotions or what kind of mindset did that give you to where people feel that, because that triggered something in you from that moment, that was going to alter your life that you didn't maybe realize at that point because you're a child, but it did trigger something within you. So how does that feel, when someone that you look up to or someone that you meet along the way, something that happens, it just changes who you are.
How does it make me feel?
Yeah. Like to have the low self-confidence, what was that happening from then on? What did your life look like, that you felt was, you know, how you pursued something, how did it make you feel in your mind and emotions?
And when I was kind of pursue things very reluctantly,
Hmm.
like with self-esteem, kind of the definition for self-esteem is, going through life with a handbrake on.
Yeah, it'd be difficult. That would be very difficult.
And, and I was, so it's like I want to do something, but when you have someone saying things, you know, you can't do this, you're not capable,
Hmm.
you're too stupid, you're not
Right.
smart enough, you feel like you're not going anywhere. And this reminds me of an instance I remember with my dad. I was um, 10, 11 years old, and I was helping my dad do work during the summertime. And I got to go to work with my dad. So that was cool.
Yes.
And so we're driving down the road. My dad's driving in a Ford pickup truck, a bench seat. I'm sitting in the middle. There's another gentleman that works with my dad, and he's passing these cars and he's stepping on the gas. He's like, come on, come on. What's going on? How come this truck isn't going? What's going on here? And I'm sitting there, I'm looking around, and I look down towards the brake and gas, and I noticed the emergency brake was on a little bit. And I'm like, I wonder if that's the problem.
Could be.
I didn't say a thing because I was afraid I'd be sound stupid. I didn't know what I was talking about. And so I didn't say nothing. Got past the car. Then later on, I heard my dad say, by George, I know what the problem was. The emergency brake was on. No wonder we couldn't pass so easily. No wonder it was so hard. And I was like, I was right. But, I was afraid to say something because I was afraid of how it would look.
Hmm.
I didn't feel like I would know what I was talking about.
Right.
And so, you have some things in your life and happen, that's just an example of how you feel. You're afraid to say something. You're afraid to, bring up something. It's like,
Hmm.
you may see something that somebody else doesn't see that could help them out. In that case, my dad could have gone along, popped the emergency brake,
Right.
and been like turbo, probably took off.
He would have liked that.
But I was afraid to say anything.
Mm.
So, those are the type of things that can, examples that could happen that I've experienced,
Hmm.
being afraid to say anything.
Right.
And so, and I look back at that and I remember that time period and I was like, I could help my dad if I said something, but I was
Right.
afraid to.
Right. And I know that you worked at a local, big place for years, and I don't know, and I worked there as well, a few years ago, and people would always come and tell me, oh my gosh, I just love your husband. When he talks to me, he doesn't make me feel stupid. When he talks to me, he explains things where I can understand. He treats me like a person. He doesn't make me feel like it's my fault. And so time after time after time, I had these people coming up and saying those things to me. And the reason is because you felt that with your grandfather, you felt like, he was belittled. You felt like, well, he made me look stupid. He made me look dumb. And so then that mindset carried with you, and you don't want anybody else to feel that. And so by treating people the way, well, maybe you didn't want to tell your father that's okay, the emergency brake on, because you didn't want to make him feel like he wasn't, figuring it out himself. You didn't want to make him feel like he was not, figuring this out. So, okay, I'm not going to tell him because I don't want to be disrespectful. And
Yeah.
so,
I don't know.
yeah,
It's like, I just don't want to say anything because I was like,
yeah,
I don't know. I'm not smart with this. I don't know what it is. So I'm not going to bring it up. And so, I mean, you know, and you talking about, being that way and hearing, how the impact that I have on people, just being me
hmm,
and why,
right,
and learning why I do that is because of what I've gone through.
right,
And, there's so many different things I've gone through in my life at different times.
hmm,
Life happens to us all
right,
and we can get down, depressed, and we've all had those.
yeah,
I've had those things. And I'm, looking about the self-esteem, and I was kind of like, what is it about self-esteem? What is that person like?
right,
And so I was looking up that type of information, and I came across this as, what's the root of someone with self-esteem? And this is just across a generalistic aspect. You may hit some things with you, and may not. They said, well, the self-esteem may be caused by the experience in early childhood, such as being bullied or neglected. And also this low self-esteem, may bring difficulty in relationships and problems in school and work. School, I was afraid to raise my hand.
Right.
I didn't feel neglected.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents were there all the time, very helpful with me. I didn't feel neglected at all.
Right.
So, I mean, I've always asked myself, why do I act the way I do?
Right.
Um, and so finding out these things about myself and looking back in my life and small little instances that happened that I recalled can be a part of it. And another part that's sometimes about low self-esteem is in some cases low self-esteem may be include being unhappy, having an unhappy childhood where parents, or somebody else in your life was extremely critical.
Right.
In that case, what comes to me was unfortunately was my grandfather. I was one, but I'm not the only one that he treated that way, unfortunately. You had poor academic performance in school, resulting in a lack of confidence. I was average in school. It came to wood shop, work with my hands. I was great. I got A+ in that, and I did so good that I was asked to be the shop supervisor. I didn't like that because I had to interact with people. I had to take on responsibility. I had to be with confidence, and I didn't have it. And it can also cause ongoing stressfulness. Ongoing stressful life events can cause, such as a relationship breakdown or financial trouble. I kind of read that. I was like, relational breakdown. My parents had divorce. How's that affect me?
Mm-hmm.
Financially, I think we was okay, but I remember mom telling me as I got older, you don't have to live like you grew up.
Right.
Life is better for you. You don't have to live the way we lived when you were younger.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that's kind of something in my mind that sometimes it makes me, be careful of things and approaches in life.
Right.
But I've grown.
Mm-hmm.
I love taking care of you, and God's blessed us and with our family and provisions. So we don't live nothing like I grew up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty rough for you growing up as far as financially, but full of love, right?
Oh yes,
House full of love, so you didn't really think you missed a lot.
No, had a wonderful time. Got to do garden work and things. It wasn't any fun, but it was learning experiences. My mom was like, what this come by, it's like green beans. I don't like green beans with the bean in them. She says, if you don't like green beans with bean, you can go pick it earlier. I was like, I can? That make a difference? She's like, yeah. So I went and picked them early. I ate the green beans. If I wanted a tomato lettuce sandwich, you know what I did? Went to the garden, got a tomato, got a head of lettuce, and I'd make a tomato lettuce,
Yeah.
bacon tomato lettuce sandwich or something like that. So, I learned a lot of things during that time period,
Yeah.
that I don't regret at all.
Right.
So, it's not like I had a terrible life at all.
Right. No, no. And all it takes is just one person in your life, because I had that happen in my life, but all it takes is one person to say something that, that you looked up to, or, they like, wow, that must be who I am because they're saying that about me. And so it becomes your identity, and it affects your life. And people can do that in the positive. They can say encouraging and take you to a positive direction in your life, or you can have someone, and it just takes one person, to take your emotions and take your life into a pattern, that you see where I'm afraid to step out and do something. I don't take risk, or I don't want people to, I can't talk to people No, because I get all this anxious feelings, I think they're not going to listen to me. They don't care about me. So all it takes is one person. So you can be the encourager in somebody's life, or you can be the discourager that takes you to a negative direction. And so, with you, it took one person basically that altered your life for, a while, for a few years. And
Yeah.
then, but throughout, the confidence and this low self-esteem and the anxiety and stuff that you faced, you know, it can be on different levels for different people.
Oh yeah.
And some can have extreme, it may take long to get through things, or it can be, it all starts with awareness, right? How you want to become aware of, well, I'm acting this way, but I don't want to act this way. I want to be somewhere different. I want to be someone that I feel to do, but I'm not doing it. So that's when you challenge, what level that you're on. So for you, it's kind of like, things that you may not even recognize, but your mom did, right? And she said something that kind of helped you to get to that awareness that kind of brought that turnaround for you. And, what was that part like?
Well, I'll go back a little bit. It's like, I was talking about being in high school. I was
Yeah.
afraid I want to be myself. And then went to college for electronics. And then when I graduate, close to graduation, they said, there's this one class you can take, public speaking. Well, and I'm like,
It's
I'm not getting front and talking to anybody. I don't care what, if it's a plus or benefit to my graduation, no way am I getting to take a class like that. But then recognizing how I need to be more outgoing, I got a job shortly after college, and I had to do customer service where I had to go and talk to people. I was like, okay, it's uncomfortable, but it helps me grow. And I did that and kept doing that, and grew. And then, through life events and things like that, I was still struggling with my, self-confidence and, self-esteem. And, there was a time in my life where, I was pretty, I think, down, looking back. And then my mom came to me one time and she goes, I don't know, she says, you're depressed, or do you think you're depressed? And I'm like, what are you talking about, Mom? I'm not depressed. What makes you think that? She goes, I don't know. I just think that you may be dealing with some type of depression. I'm like, no, I'm not depressed at all. And then a little bit later on, I had to think about that. And I'm like, am I depressed? The things going on in my life at this time are, not very great.
Right.
How am I handling this? And it's been going on for quite a long time. And I'm like, there's a possibility I could be depressed, but I may not recognize it as being depressed because I've been in that place for so long.
Right.
It's normal.
Right.
That seemed normal. I was like, whoa, okay, I need to evaluate myself. And so I think sometime later, things in that time period in my life got even a little more crazy emotionally. And what about myself? My mom encouraged me. She says, you need to be around men. Church is having this men outing, weekend outing. You need to go. I'm like, nope, not going. Don't want to be around anybody. Want to be by myself, be my own thoughts. I'm not being around anybody. I don't want to talk to nobody. She goes, no, I think that do you good. I'm like, no, I don't want to. And then I kind of think, well, way I'm at, the way I'm feeling, that probably would be good to be around people, but I don't want to be around people. So I went. I went to the retreat, and I didn't get around anybody. I was by myself, crying at times, talking to myself, keep myself disassociated as much as possible. But I was there. I went there for the second year. And I was still along the same lines, but I'm like, okay, I need to interact with people. So I would go stand by people that were talking. And I'd be like, I wouldn't talk unless somebody said something. I'm like, oh, okay. I would just listen. I'd go from one group of guys to another group of guys. Uh, Very little interaction at all. But I was healing. And
Mhm.
then I went for the third year and I started talking with more people, interacting with a little bit more. Still uncomfortable, still uneasy, but I still interacted with them.
Right.
And it helped me grow. And plus, that time we were healing. Um, but that was, a time period where, I was like, maybe I'm depressed. I need to be around these people. And so that helped me, that process, being around the people, because when you're think you have no confidence in yourself, well, you feel you have no confidence in yourself. Your self-esteem is down. You
Right.
don't feel like, what do you feel like doing? Sitting, watching TV. Younger generation is play video games. Don't want to be around anybody.
Mm.
Nope. That's so you just want to be stuck there. But that's not the best place to be. And I
Right.
had to learn that. I had
Mhm.
to go through it. And it was uncomfortable. It was uneasy. But I grew from that.
Right.
And so, there were still times where I'd have my downs and stuff like that. And,
Right.
and things in our mind keeps going. And sometimes, no, not sometimes, all the time in our lives, when we focus on something,
Mhm.
well, we do focus on something.
Right.
And depending what we're focused on, it's depending on how we may feel.
Mhm.
Like we tell people and things, what you focus, what you keep your mind on and look at all the time, what you focus on, that's what's going to, becomes important to you.
It does. It grows and highlights. Yeah.
Yeah. So, if you're thinking, well, I'm all down, depressed, the world hates me, that's
Mhm.
all you're going to see.
Mhm.
And I don't know if I got quite that bad, but I'd be down where I didn't want to associate, like I was saying, with anyone.
Right.
But then I was like, well, I need to associate with others. So I started trying to
Mhm.
focus that way. Not easy, but I did, and it helped me grow. Um, and I remember things going through my mind one time, and um, I was driving down the road, and things are just going through my mind, all sorts of stuff. And I guess you all never have that problem, do you?
Never.
You
Yeah.
know, you
All
know,
the time people does
because
that.
you're around yourself more than anybody
That's
else.
true.
So I'm driving down the road. I have all these things, thoughts going through my mind. And all of a sudden, I call my dad. I'm like, talk to me. I just need you to talk to me. That's what I wanted. But I called him and he didn't answer the phone. And so I'm driving down the road, and then he called me later. And this is when they had Blackberries.
Yeah.
But I
A
had
few
like,
days ago.
but I had an earpiece in my ear. So I'm driving the road. He called, I answered, and he's like, what? I said, talk to me. He's like, what? What's going on? I said, just talk to me. I don't care what you're saying. Just talk to me. He's like, what's going on? And I'm like, I'm not really sure. I'm driving down the road. This was
Mhm.
really weird
Mhm.
experience. I'm driving down the road. My nose starts itching. My ears start kind of getting itchy. Then I'm looking at myself as I'm driving my truck. And I'm like, this is weird. I'm seeing myself from above, per se. I'm like, what is going on? Then, as I'm driving down the road, my hands on the steering wheel, I started moving my fingers, but they weren't responding. And then I started losing more motor skills. And I think when my dad called or when I got the phone with him, I'm trying to do everything I can to try to hit the button on my phone. But I finally did, but it was very difficult because I was losing motor skills. And he's like, well, come to my office. I'm like, I don't know if I can. He says, turn around. I was like, I'll try. It took everything I could to turn around because my strength and motor skills were just going by the second.
Mhm.
And I finally stopped, but my legs were acting weird too. And it was like, you ever had your legs when they go numb or something like that? tingling.
Get tingly, yeah.
It was something, not the tingling, but the numbness where you felt them, but you
Mm-hmm.
just couldn't quite control them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way my legs were. And I finally pulled over. I just, I did not take my hand off steering wheel because I knew I couldn't do anything with my hands until he showed up and he took me. I went to the hospital and they said, "You're having an anxiety attack." I'm like, "What?" "Yeah, you had an anxiety attack." I'm like, "Okay." Well, that was, I never had one like that ever since then at all. But that experience, everything going through your mind, you try to process it, think about it yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and you can go crazy. I don't know if that would be the right word to say, but you can, it feels like you're going crazy. You have
Yeah.
so much stuff going through your mind, you don't know what to do. And
Right.
you get us all anxiety. And that's what happened to me at that time. And it was, it was a scary type of little thing if that happened. But, um, yeah, I kind of grew from that way. And so, that was one of those type of experiences, is a real type of switch, a growth thing, and going through that experience of anxiety.
Right.
Somebody's telling you about that, you're like, "What? Okay, that sounds terrible."
Right.
But going through that, understand what can lead up to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big thing. What can lead up to it?
Right. And there's, because of the experiences that you've been through, I don't know how many people that you help, because you can see signs, and you just have that heart to help them, because you don't want them to experience that. And if you can get there before they experience it, you will do everything you can. And you've helped so many people, basically, talk down from the ledge. You've had so many people that you've helped because you've understood it. You've understood the feelings, you understand how your mind races. And it's been, when you talk to people, they're like, wow, he understands. He knows what I'm going through. He knows how I'm feeling. So then they don't feel so alone. And, so there's so many people, I believe, in this generation, and even adults, older people can face this as well. But I think it's more in the younger generations that deal with this. And so to have somebody say, hey, you can make it, you can get through this, because you've had a process to get through, and you've had years to become aware. And sometimes you can have good days and bad days, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, not all of them's going to be great days, but they're going to be more. There's going to be more of those better days, right? And so for the people, that they feel that, and they have that experience, and they're like, what would be some things that you could possibly say to them, that what can they do for themselves? Like you did, you had to put yourself around people. So what are some things that, you can help them to realize that they need to become aware of where they're at, what level? Sometimes people let it go for so long that it's going to take them more to climb out. But there's going to be times where you can, once you become aware of it, then when it starts happening, you can become more aware of it, and you can maybe shut it down, and learn how to have those techniques, those methods, that can help them. So what would be some things, the people that face that, that have maybe, slight, to extreme, there's things that you can do. So what would you give that could help them in their journey, to help them to maybe lessen that, or get over that, maybe not even experience it?
I mean, like for me, I just talking about, I recognized, things about myself from, like, my mom making comments about
Mm-hmm.
depressed, and I
Mm-hmm.
had to evaluate what was I thinking.
Right.
And so I had to learn, what are my thoughts?
Right.
And then how do I respond to my thoughts?
Right. Important.
Yeah. And so, if you're feel, anxiety, or, depressed, you might say, why? And that's a question I ask myself a lot.
Yeah.
Was why? Why am I this way?
Mm-hmm.
But then I had to think about, it's like, okay, why am I this way? And, do I need to keep dwelling on this?
Mm-hmm.
And like I say, when we're going through something, we can have stuff going through our head, and process and process and process, and think and think and think. And some of us will do it more than others.
Mm-hmm.
Just like when I had that anxiety attack, I was calling my dad. I says, just talk to me.
Right.
So when you have those type of, thoughts like you're talking about and how to do it, it's like put yourself around someone, get yourself in contact with some at that moment, if possible, just to talk to you. One that can be a positive, encouraging, and can understand what you're going through,
Hmm.
are compassionate about it. They may not totally understand, but be compassionate about
Right.
it. You don't want to be someone there who's like, just suck it up, you get over it,
No.
you know,
Mm-mm.
I don't know what you're complaining about.
Mm-mm.
That's not going to help you anything. It's going to
No.
make things worse for you. But you just to be around someone that can help encourage you and walk you through, and just, sometimes just talk to. I mean, for me, sometimes I'll just have to have someone talk to. They didn't have to say anything.
Right.
I just talked, and I may
Hmm.
say the same thing over and over in multiple different ways,
It works.
but that helped get that out
Hmm.
and help relieve all the stress and anxiety and all the things that are going through the mind. And so, when you feel that way, be aware of your thoughts,
Right.
because if you're stuck on that, that's all you're going to focus on, like we are saying a while ago,
Hmm.
and
Right.
that's all you're going to see. And it doesn't matter if it's a bright, sunny, wonderful day, you'll think it's raining and cloudy and dark.
Right. Hmm.
So we have to capture our mindset and change it. Now, that is easy to say and very challenging to do when you're in that moment.
Yes.
So that's when, you know, from my experiences, have those that you can contact, family member or friend, spouse, you know, anyone that could be there and to say, what's going on,
Right.
because that will help you tremendously to get through that moment and that you're dealing with, because we can just beat ourselves up with that.
Right. Yeah. And I believe that, one thing that people go through that is they feel alone,
Mhm.
and so like you need somebody to talk to you. You need to put yourself around that environment that, like, I just want to hear people. I just need to know I'm okay. I'm going to be safe, that my mind, I can hear somebody talking. And so it's going to distract me from my own thoughts. So all that became, it's part of your awareness, it's part of what you went through. And so, for people, they feel like they're alone. How important is that for them to realize that as well? Like
Yeah,
you were saying.
yeah. I mean, you can feel alone, just like I said. I was going through the men's retreats that went on for the
Mhm.
church. That was an annual thing, but I went to that so I'd be around that.
Right.
Um, Also, I mean, that's not an every day, a week, month thing or whatever. It's only once a year for that thing. But I would go to friends' house. I would go to my parents' house, and siblings, and I would just be there.
Hmm.
Doesn't mean I had to do anything. Maybe help work and do stuff, helping someone do something to help take my mind away from things.
Right.
I would go to my dad's and Tom's, and we'd go shoot rifles and stuff like that. Or I would, help do work around the yard someplace. Or I just go to my mom's and they fix lunch or dinner, and I'd sit on the couch and just talk or watch
Be in the
TV.
presence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just be around
Right.
people. That helped with the um loneliness, like you're talking about.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um,
Feeling isolated.
yeah,
Yeah.
so not so isolated, because I could be myself and at home, and at times I was the only one at home,
Hmm.
and your mind can drive you crazy.
Yeah.
So I didn't like that. So I put myself around people, even though I didn't want to be around people.
Hmm.
So I was aware of that thought
Right.
and aware of the action I had to take. And the majority of the time I did take the action with that.
Hmm. And there's times, in our life together that, it's tried to come back up, and by talking through it, and saying things, like, is this what you're thinking? Is it the reality, or is it something your mind is giving you a wrong perception on? So you have to be aware that, when it starts trying to um come upon you, that you are aware of what your thoughts are,
Hmm.
because your thoughts will take you somewhere, whether positive or negative, it will take you there. So just like you're saying, you had to become aware of your thoughts. You had to put yourself around people. And once you get that awareness, then I mean, it began to shift. It begins to change to where now, it's not, you know, hardly ever, that happens. And it's been long forever since it has happened. And
Hmm.
so there's a lot of, just awareness, I believe, that comes with this. And if you say, I can handle it, and that's one thing about men, I think, well, I've got this, I am tough, I have got this. I am not supposed to go to anybody else because I'm the fixer. I'm the one who's supposed to have it all
Yeah,
together.
that's
And
right.
and so
No.
then what happens, you suffer, and women, a lot of times they think, well, I'm the mother, I'm supposed to have all the answers. And, well, I'm supposed to know how to do this and how to take care of this. And so no matter where you're at in your life, there is something, that you have to be aware of that is trying to attach itself to you. And it will start in your thoughts. It will start in your thoughts. And that's when the fear, the anxiety, the low self-confidence, the lack of confidence, it's going to become your behaviors, it's going to become your words, it's going to become your self-talk. And then that is where your life's going to go, in that direction. So awareness is huge, and
Yeah.
everything that you say that you went through, it did start with awareness, like you're saying. And that because of that, you have helped so many people time after time after time, that has said how you treat them with respect, how you care for them. If you feel like, they're feeling left out, or if they feel like, they're not good enough to have a good life, that their relationships are unhealthy, you step in and you have absolutely changed and transformed the lives, because you have experienced those things.
Yes.
And you don't want them, it hurts you, it basically bothers your heart, to think that somebody else would experience that kind of lifestyle. And you are such a blessing to so many people.
Yeah. And so, I mean, and all the stories and things that I'm sharing and I've gone through and experienced, and reading on this low self-esteem, there's a couple little things here that I ran across to share with you. It's like, when it's like, which most likely describes a person with low self-esteem. So someone that has low self-esteem, like, well, I'm a go-getter, I'm just fine. Which there are people that way, and that's great. But the explanation they have that found here was that low self-esteem is characterized by a lack of confidence and feeling bad about yourself. People with low self-esteem often feel unloved, awkward,
Mhm.
or incompetent. Do any of you feel that way? I've had all those
Right. Hmm.
at some time or another.
Right.
And I read that, I was like, God, that is me. And then it goes on saying, they have a fragile sense of self that, that can easily be wounded by others. Yes, somebody comes and says something, it's like, hey, you're an idiot, you're stupid, you don't know what you're talking about. I mean, like, no, okay, I won't say nothing anymore. I mean, I'm not going to talk about that anymore. Another one thing is like, what does a low self-esteem lead to? So if you stay that way, you keep
Mm.
that mindset, um, low self low self-esteem, um, can have some consequences with it. It can create anxiety.
Yeah.
What was he talking about? Anxiety,
Hmm. Right.
stress, plenty of
That
that at
happens.
times. Loneliness. I didn't live around nobody. Increased likelihood of depression. Think somebody said depression, and I'm thinking they've been that way, that yeah, there'll be some type of depression, some level there.
Right.
And it can cause problems with friendships. Do you have problems with keeping friends sometimes? You know, or romantic relationships, you may be in relationships in and out because you low self-esteem about yourself. You don't have any confidence in yourself. And somebody says, hey, I don't like the way you look. I don't like the way you talk. I don't like the way you dress. Well, what do you do when somebody tells you that? Hey, I'm not getting around anyone like that. I'm not going to put myself there. So you just isolate yourself.
Hmm.
And so, I seen reading that, I'm like, oh my gosh, that hit home in some of those areas. And I'm like, wow, that explained a lot.
Right.
And and then so I think about what I like you say, you know, who worked at their time there and how I helped people and being silly with them in ways and make them feel important and not stupid, because things that they're working on, they didn't know the whole aspect of it. And I was
Hmm.
like, hey, you're fine, let me show you this. And
Right.
they're like, wow, thank you. And sometimes, hey, you know, you show me this. I don't know how to do this. And they're like, want me to show you? I was like, yeah, I mean, you know more than this than I do. And they're like, wow, okay. So I helped build their self-confidence.
You did.
And so I've learned to help encourage people and make them feel that way because we all like being encouraged. We all like feeling needed or
Hmm.
worthwhile.
Right.
There's a lot of people that aren't encouraging to others.
True.
It's easy to be negative and knock someone down, belittle them,
Hmm.
speak mean. It is to positive and encourage them.
Right.
And so, there's, you may know someone with low self-esteem,
Hmm.
and it even could be you at
Yeah.
times.
There's times when you got to go through self-evaluation, self-awareness, and reflection.
Yeah. And so there's things that you can do if you see someone, and also you could do this with yourself. And the few little things is, get them involved in doing something with others.
Hmm.
What did I say I did a while ago? I put myself around other people.
Right.
I didn't know this type of thing, but I felt, I need to be around other people.
Hmm.
So I put myself around other people, even though I didn't want to. I did that, and that helped me. And I did that
Hmm.
continuously. And as I got better and better about myself, I got around people that way less and less. Um, when I be around people and I can see something like that, I get positive, encouragement to them.
Hmm.
Who doesn't like something positive? Hey, it's like, hey, you did a great job. I really appreciate your help. That was a great idea. I never
Yeah.
thought of that. Pull the handle on the emergency brake so you can go a lot faster. Take your hand off the handbrake so you can go a lot faster.
Yeah.
You know, be like, wow, never thought of that. Encourage people.
That's helpful. Yeah.
Who doesn't like being encouraged?
Hmm. Right.
Who has enough people discouraging?
Hmm.
We discourage ourselves enough. We belittle ourselves sometimes. We speak negative about ourselves sometimes,
Right.
in our mind or verbally.
Hmm.
And, sometimes you want to laugh, with
Laughter is
them.
good.
Yes, laughter is a good medicine, and you laugh with them. Don't laugh at them.
Right.
Sometimes we laugh at ourselves because, you do something that you feel is kind of silly or stupid, and you may make a joke about it. We've seen people do that.
Right.
Then start laughing about themselves just because they feel bad about what they did. So we don't, you see that, we want to encourage them and say,
Hmm.
hey, that was a funny joke you did. Or, um, express also concern with them. Just like my mom, when she was like, I think you're going through depression.
Hmm.
She was concerned. She was showing care. When we show that to people, that makes them feel worthwhile.
Right.
It tears, I won't say tear down the wall, but it helps them make them more vulnerable to be willing to evaluate themselves, just like I did. At first, my first reaction was, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. Denial.
Yeah, I'll deny it all.
Not aware.
I'm fine, no depression all in my life. Everything's a-okay. But I think looking back at it and that a little bit at that time period, like I was saying, that wasn't quite true.
Hmm.
So those are just some things that you can do to yourself, for yourself, and for others that can, lack of confidence in themselves and the low self-esteem. And the funny thing is, it's like I was saying, the one thing was here is like when I was reading about the low self-esteem, is where the low self-esteem is characterized by a lack of confidence. So those two kind of just overlap each other.
Right.
So low self-esteem can cause you to have low confidence in yourself. And low confidence in yourself, you have no self-esteem.
Right.
So they go kind of hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that through my life, and because I've been having a lot, and earlier in my life was no self-confidence. Very few things I was confident in doing. But I've grown with that way. Now, if I had that speaking class, I would take that speaking class.
Yes.
Get in front and talking to people. That's okay now. Saying what I have to say, I'm okay with that now. Do I have the thoughts sometimes on what other people may say? Yes. Do I care a lot about it? Not as much.
True.
So, that is growth. And a lot of these things is saying, be like, oh, yeah, that's easy to say, but it's hard to do. Man, that's true.
Oh.
But when you have someone there with you, you've been with me and helped a tremendous amount, since we've been together, and helped grow tremendous, major support and help them my confidence and self-esteem. I mean, she said I was a whooped pup.
I did. He was with Puppet when we got together. And he was like, no confidence at all.
So, and I felt I was fine. I knew that could be a little bit better, but it wouldn't only been a little bit, and I'm way better than that now.
Yes.
And there's still a whole lot more to grow.
Yes. I remember when we first started speaking like a few years ago. He was shaking, the microphone was shaking. It's like he was like nervous and forget to breathe sometimes. And now, I mean, it's like, you share your heart, and it comes across the way you want, so you have become aware through your process. And so it's really, benefited not only you, but it's helped to inspire and give other people hope as well through your message and what you share.
Yeah, and one last thing to say, in my confidence in myself, and when we first got together and stuff, is remember at church, I was asked to teach the what was it
The nursery.
in the nursery from 6 months to a year, or it was like
Tots.
might have been 3 to 6 months or something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't do that. I can't talk to these kids. There's no way. Now they sit in a table that had a hole in it. There was like 4 of them there. And I had a lesson in front of me. And oh my gosh, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't talk. In my mind, I was like, what are these kids thinking? What are they going to think I'm saying? They're not going to understand the thing I'm saying. I'm not going to make any sense.
A little anxiety going on.
And I was freaking out to have to speak to these little toddlers, 3 to 6 month olds. Now, they didn't understand a thing I said. All they want to do is chew on toys or whatever it was they had. But
they wanted their snacks. They didn't care.
That's my self-confidence I had, and the low self-esteem I had of myself at that time. That even speaking to the little toddlers at that moment, in that setting, probably outside of it, I wouldn't have no problem. But in that setting where I had to teach them something, I was scared to death.
Yeah.
And I think I only did it one time.
Yeah. And you get to a point to where like you experience those things, and then where you are now is kind of like it's unrecognizable almost to where you were, how you felt. You still know how it felt, but you're able to go through it, and the way you are now is just like night and day. I mean, it is just so you have grown so much, through the years, and all of us are growing. Life is a journey, so it's a process. So each one of us deal with something different than somebody else, but when you have that fear, the anxiety, and that lack of confidence and the low self-esteem that just bombard you, you're not really living the life that God created you to live. You are not pursuing your purpose, and you're not doing things that you want to be. You're living your life one way, while desiring to be another way. And that's like, that probably brings anxiety upon you as much as anything else, because you desire to be different. You want to be different,
Yeah,
but
yes.
you're not there. So that's one thing that we help now, with our stories, to help people to know that they can break through those limiting beliefs, that the mindset shift can happen into the things that they desire, the reasons they're here on this earth, that it can happen and it will happen. And it takes a process, that awareness has to be there, like you've been sharing, to put yourself around people. But there's different things that we talk about, when we speak and when we coach our clients and stuff like that, there is things that you will grow from, you will be here, but we're going to get you to where you want to be, to where God wants you to be in your life. So as we wrap this up, is there any last words of wisdom, for someone who's facing anxiety? They feel like, I'm here and I feel like, life is just beating me up and I can't move forward, because if I move forward, then I have one step forward and two step back. What is it that you can help people to know, that to never give up, to know that they can have the life that God created them to have?
And being, like I was talking about earlier, is about what you're thinking about.
Right.
And people going through things like that, is we want to be alone. So the best thing to say is don't be alone.
Right.
Don't isolate yourself.
Right.
Get around or connect yourself with people to talk to just vent per se, just to talk, to get things out. It can make things a lot easier, and can bring things that you may think going through your mind is like, oh my gosh, the world's going to end. Then you start talking about them, like, oh nope, just had a bad few minutes there. That's it.
Yeah.
So don't be alone. You're not alone. Make sure you don't do it alone. Be there with others. And if you don't have anybody there, that's, for me, I would love to help people with that, just to help give them, be there, been there, done that. I'm willing to be there to help them, people in those type of things.
Yeah. And how can they get a hold of you, if they want to contact you?
Yeah, my Facebook page is Jim Keibler. You can send a message that way on Facebook, or direct DM me that way, instant messenger, and that way, and I will get back with you, and do the best I can to help you where you're at. Just having someone to connect with and have someone to tell their story with, your situation, can make the difference where you're at. You may think, well, I can get through it, I can push through it. You might be able to, but it's not going to be fun. And you could push through it try to push through it so much that you will have anxiety attack.
Yeah.
Like I did.
Yeah. So thank you to my wonderful hubby for being my special guest and for sharing his story, actually for the first time on our show. And so he has a lot of inspiration, a lot of valuable insight, and the heart of God that we reflect, in everything he does. And so thank you so much. I love you. It's on my heart.
My heart.
And
it's been great to be here. You're an awesome host.
Thank you. And you're a host. Whenever you're a host, you're great as well. So I want to thank you for watching. And if you know anybody that's deals with this, and there is, like, on every corner, every street, you will find people who deals with this all the time. So please share this with them, have them watch this, and they need to connect with us, connect with Jim, that he can be there for them and be that person, because we don't want anybody in this world to feel like they're alone and that they have to fight alone, because it's better when you have somebody that's got your back, somebody that's there to give you that insight, that next step towards your healing, towards your health, and toward that mental health, that can be exhausting on your own, but you have somebody there that can help you. So we never want anybody to feel like they're alone. And so please have them contact us. If it's you, please contact them, and we can, be there for you, be that person that can give you that hope, that encouragement, that next step that will help you to get your health as well. And that's what God made us to be, to have a relationship with each other, to know that you're not alone. And so we're thankful,
Yes.
to be here with you, to share Jim's story and please share. And we love you all very much for watching the Journey of Life, Love, and Lessons talk show. And we will talk to you again very soon.
Bye.
Love you. Bye.